Welcome back to the channel. I think it's about time we get working on the old Challenger again. Let's get started. So that is right, we are back in the shop. I'm gonna call this shop 3.0. 1.0 was erecting the thing in the fall of 2020. Version 2 was last summer putting in our concrete floor, and now we are insulated, so shop V3. We've got the Challenger behind us. I'm gonna start working on getting the front, the engine bay ready, prepped for paint. I've got a list of things over here on my wall. Well, giant RV. Let's take a look at that. So here's the start of the list for the 72. There's a ton more in here, but these are the high points to get us ready to paint the rest of the vehicle. But for now, engine bay paint so I can get the K-member on, which allows us to get the front brakes and the suspension and then move it around more freely within the building here. So let's talk about that. Now I already know someone is going, well, get the whole thing ready for paint before you paint the thing, silly, because then you only do it once, or you're gonna get overspray, you're gonna do this or that. And you know what? Those may be the cases and options, but for me, in the space I've got to work with, I wanna get this thing back on 4 wheels and start taking parts off the shelf behind me and put them back on here. And for that, painting the engine bay is the next step in order to move forward. I really can't take this thing outside the shop on car dollies in the front without the assistance of the Bobcat, and now with no K-member in the front, that makes things really difficult. So like I said, in order to even get this thing in the paint booth, it's going to be a challenge. So we got to go ahead and get the engine bay ready to go. If you remember last fall, we had the fenders off, we took our undercoating and did the outer portions of the fenders. Not the actual fenders yet, but I guess the inner fenders on the frame, on the body. We got those painted in our black, and then we sprayed some epoxy in the engine bay after doing a good amount of body work, patching up some holes from rust and other just life experience. So we're gonna go through, get the rest of this area buttoned up, probably a little bit of skim coat. Yeah, it's an engine bay, but we're gonna make it look nice for Darren. And I don't know if it's going to be this video or the next one, but I want to get this thing into the paint booth, and that means I have to get this thing out of the way. Unfortunately, I broke the brakes, so currently it's a 28,000 pound paperweight. So multiple things have to happen to make this happen. So let's just get started. This is one of those times where it's nice to have friends to move the hood, but I don't have friends. Maybe I should meet Scott from VCore and we can be friends. Now the hood itself was in pretty good shape. That was put an epoxy primer last fall, if you remember, and I have done some minor body work to it. There's a little more skim left to do, but at the end of last fall, it was let's get everything in primer, so it's not bare metal anymore. So that's where we are with that. That'll come back to haunt me another day, but for now, in the engine bay, it's looking okay. I mean, there's some rough areas here from past life experience, and it's not on the plan to take out this entire firewall and replace it. That's just not something Darren wants to do for a multitude of reasons. Mainly he wants to get the car back, and I've been sitting on it for 4.5 years now. 4 years. Yep. I should work on that. Anyways, this new inner fender is replaced. That one was in good condition. We pulled out this front core support a little bit and got everything trued up here again so our fenders fit. So far, kind of. There was a handful of pitting up through here, so we filled that in either with some weld or a little bit of skim coat. A little bit over here as well, and around where the window goes. But by and large, this is looking pretty good and allows me to focus on just in here. So a little bit of work left on the firewall. Again, I just want to throw a little bit of skim in here just to try and smooth it out a little bit more for him. It's not going to be a lot, but I think it's just going to be enough to polish it up just a little more. Now I should figure out what to do with these fenders, because I've tried to consolidate, and what used to be space there is now space up there. Up there, right. And it's tough to get these big fenders up there. So, yeah, and also over on this fender I've got a little bit of pulling to do on the body line. I'll show you that. One point in time, something hit this body line right here and dinged it in, so I need to try and pull this out a little bit. I've got a stud gun, a puller I'm trying to, a spotter I'm trying to use, and I also went and picked up a bridge puller, so I can set that across here, put some studs on here, and try and pull it out in a little more uniform fashion than just my slide hammer. So, otherwise, yep, this fender needs some help. I see a little surface rust. That's fine, we'll take care of that. So while I still have the fenders on here, as I was saying, I'm going to try and get those couple of dents pulled out here, get them fit in with the doors, get the doors hung back on the car with something better than a ratchet strap, and just try and do some of the final fitment before we go in and, yep, fitment, not fitment, fitment, before we go ahead and get the rest of the car ready for paint. So yeah, like I said, I'm just going to go throw on some skim, come back, sand it off, and you probably don't need to watch me put on skim coat, right? So let me just fast forward to the point where I make it look prettier. It has definitely been a few days. Had some, well, the pickup died again. But we've been down here when we can, working little by little on getting this firewall area a little better, smoothed out, take care of some of the rough edges. And I've got a bunch of spots with the U-Pole glazing putty on there. So I'm gonna go ahead, put a little more epoxy primer on these areas that I've sanded down, and then a little bit here on the pillar as well. And then that's gonna get us ready, I think, to put down a couple coats of high build primer and sand in here, maybe just one coat because it's the firewall and engine bay, and most of it's covered up by the monstrous 440. But anyways, point is, I'm gonna put down a little primer, let it dry, come back, shoot some more primer in here, sand her down, then we'll be ready, hopefully, to go grab our sublime green paint and get moving forward with that. So let me go ahead, mix up some primer, we'll get to it. All right, so I've got just a little bit of primer mixed up here, about 2 ounces, just enough to cover these areas, and we will continue on with life. And if you haven't noticed, I got something on my shirt. I'm not quite sure when in the last few minutes, but that happened, and well, it was a good shirt. I guess now it's a shop shirt. Anyways, we have our primer on. I'm gonna let that dry. And really, when you think about it, the ignition module goes over here, wiper motor goes over here, your whole brake assembly goes over here, your wiring harness goes down here. You're really not gonna see a whole lot of anything that I just fixed, except for just a little corner over here and that little corner over there. But as long as we're in it this far, why not take the extra little bit of time in the grand scheme of things and make it right, or at least make it better. So this is gonna dry. I'm gonna go ahead and take off our fenders, probably mask off a little bit where I've already done the undercoating outside. Then when we come back, we will go ahead and drop down some of our high build primer, and we'll see if I'm gonna try and put up the paint booth, which means moving the motorhome over here, or just sort of drop cloth off the side of the camper and shoot it as is. We're not spraying a lot, so we'll see. On the upside, this is the first time spraying in the nice insulated shop now, so that is awesome. No dust flying around, no critters, no bugs. It's not 110 degrees, so for that, 2 thumbs up.
2,000 years later.
Well, it's been more than a few days, more than a few weeks, probably close to a month since I've done any real filming on the Challenger. There's a large gap between the last clip and now. The biggest thing is we've been doing a lot of work off camera because it's been a lot of sanding, filling, skimming, sanding, rinse, repeat. But we have done probably 20-25 hours worth of body work back on these rear quarters, the door jambs, and gotten everything ready to go so we can go ahead and reapply or apply our Eastwood roll-on epoxy primer. We're going to go ahead and get this thing in a couple of coats of high build primer by the end of the video, hopefully here. And I need to go ahead and go back over the areas that I have sanded off down to bare metal and hit that with the epoxy. If you remember last fall, I think it was last fall or last spring, probably fall, we went ahead and got a coat of epoxy primer sprayed on the entire vehicle. But again, doing some body work, I've sanded some of that down to bare metal, and we're gonna go ahead and get the epoxy back on it. So let's go ahead, show you real quick what we've been doing, and then go ahead and get that roll-on stuff from Eastwood set up and get that laid down. So back here on the passenger quarter is where we've done most of our work. This area down here is, remember, where we had that patch panel from Wildcat Mopar we put in a couple seasons ago, and that is all buttoned up now. Body line is where it should be. We've covered up a little down there in the rocker where the panels meet, and then of course where it was welded in. Darren wanted to delete all of the trim holes on this original quarter, so that's gone. And then down here, there was a patch he put in years ago. It was pretty good, just needed a little bit of body work to fill in some of the low spots on the welds, and I didn't figure it was worth making things worse, cutting everything out and starting over, especially since the backside has already been undercoated. Little ding here we patched up, and then this new quarter panel we put in had just a couple little dings from shipping, one here and then one here. So we got those taken care of, and then of course the seam down here on the rocker, I've got just a little bit of final sanding to do there with some skim coat. So what we're going to do is go ahead and clean up these back two quarters. Somewhere over there in my rack of paints, I've got my Eastwood supplies. I think it's over there. Anyways, we've got rollers sitting over here. Yeah, back here somewhere is all my Eastwood stuff. I'm not sure where it is right now. Oh, there it is. There's the catalyst, and there's the primer itself behind. It's 2K, not 2K, sorry, epoxy primer. And you can see a couple areas where we rolled on, and some of the areas that I was working on as well. Just a little added security there. And if you remember, a lot of the areas, especially in the cabin here, we rolled, we sprayed in or painted on, brushed on, I'm sorry, one of those methods, the Sweet Patina rust encapsulator before we sprayed our epoxy primer in here last fall. So let me go ahead and get our quarter panels cleaned up. You don't need to see me spray, just gonna hit it with the spray away cleaner, and then go ahead and get our Eastwood supplies out. So we'll come right back. Alrighty, we've got our primer mixed up. It is a 1-to-1 mixture, and they say mix what you can use in roughly 20 minutes. So that's what we're gonna do. Again, it's just roll right on like you're painting. And I've used this a little bit on other areas. And I guess the point is, for the more DIY home person, doesn't have access to paint booth or paint guns, compressors and stuff like that, this gives your everyday person at home the ability to put down a good quality epoxy base for your primer. So we're going to do that here and see how it looks. Try and get 2 coats on here. It's my goal, 1 for sure. I know I've got enough material, just don't want to have it run like that. Of course, we're going to, like I said, prime it, block it, sand it. So just want to make sure we get good coverage. Then this stuff is supposed to flow out. Leave a nice smooth end product. So that's what we'll shoot for. And you can also use a brush if you're trying to get into nooks and crannies and whatnot, just to make sure you get the coverage you're looking for. For me, I think the roller is going to do just fine. Work our way down the rocker panel over here if you can still see me. Yep, I guess maybe you can. Camera's in my way, so hopefully I'm not in your way. Go get here in our door jamb. I think pretty soon Darren's going to make a run down here, check out how it's looking and drop off. He got a set of wheels and tires for this, as well as the exhaust system. So I'll drop that stuff off here, get it out of his garage for the winter. I think I'm going to grab my brush just to work down here in the crevice of the door jamb. Luckily I've got a whole bag of these little chip brushes for this type of work. Just fine for me. And again, it's in the door jamb, so it's not going to be seen, but we're still going to try and do the best job that we can. That's kind of why I've taken so much extra time to go and do these little details. You know, lower rockers where you're really not going to see, but take the little extra time to put into it, because somebody will notice it. And I'd like it to be noticed for something positive versus some half-assed job to get something out the door. Okay. This is all done up over here, covered. We are good to go. Like I said, I'll try and swing back for a little more. Let's put you up there. Oh, I gotta bring you with me. Let's go head over to the other side of the car. Again, it's not rocket science here. We're just covering up all of our bare metal. And this quarter had all the E-coat on it that it came with from Jegs or Summit, one of the two. Maybe it was an AMD panel. It could have been an AMD panel. It was a while ago now. All I remember is I spent a year trying to get the right panel, and the first two were destroyed and damaged. And the third one, I think, yeah, it was an AMD panel. We spent the money. So, there we go. Just brush a little bit of this on in the little crack here where the welds are. And then down there. Alrighty, I'm gonna let this stuff dry and see if I can get a second coat on before it hardens up on me. Alrighty, we've got 2 coats of our Eastwood primer on there. Here's the stuff we're working with. Available on their website, and so far not so bad. It is pretty thin, it does run. Again, I'm used to spraying primer, so this is a little new for me. But overall, I think it's gonna turn out very good. Here's how it looks. So, we got good coverage down here in the door jamb. Came out really good. I think get some primer on there, a little bit of light sanding. That's gonna look like nothing was ever done. Again, over here, where the body work was done, looks very good. Back here, pretty good. There was a little ding there, kind of a crease. Like right in here, there was a crease. So pounded it out from the back a little bit, put a little bit of skim on it, U-Pull Dolphin Glaze. And then over here, like I mentioned, just a couple of dings, some transit shipping. And then down here on the rocker also is cleaned up. So we're gonna let this stuff sit overnight. And tonight's Friday. Excuse me, tomorrow I've got to run up to the north end of the cities here to help my cousin work on his garage or shop space. He's putting up a building this year so he can get his hot rod home. He's got some other things and projects to put in there as well. So Sunday, my goal is, like I mentioned, to get this primed, and hopefully we can back it out of the shop here and paint outside. Otherwise, we will move everything around and get the paint booth set up in here and go for that. I guess the big thing is going to be wind. It might be 30-mile-an-hour winds, and we may have a bunch of box elder bugs and Asian beetles, which I really don't want them in my paint. So anyways, I'm going to put a pin in this for now, and we'll come back very soon for you, just like this. Alrighty, it is a new day. We're in the shop. Of course, we've cleaned a bunch of stuff out of here. We're going to get our paint booth set up, and I figured out a little planning. I can clear out the RV and a couple of the cars and set up the paint booth long ways in here, so I can just wheel the Challenger in here without needing to go outside and bring it back in. Either way, a good option for working in the winter where I don't have to open up the overhead doors to get the vehicle in and out. And also, once I get rid of some vehicles, I can do this all the time. So I'm going to go ahead and get this set up. I'm going to wheel the Challenger in there. It's already been dusted off. Like I said, I hit the whole thing with 320, cleaned off, wax and grease remover of all the surfaces we're going to spray. I've masked off around the front and the rear end where we've got the new suspension, fuel tank, the undercoating out already. So pretty much just left to fill this big thing up and get some primer mixed up. So let me go ahead, start getting this thing filled up and positioned in here. I've got to figure out how to run my exhaust vent out. Normally, it's a nice day. I would have primed outside, but there's currently 30-mile-an-hour winds, and it's been sprinkling on and off most of the afternoon. So I've got the RV outside the door for a wind block for my exhaust, so it doesn't blow right back in here. So we'll see what we can get done. I'm just going to go ahead and get this thing set up. Cue time lapse. Alrighty, we are set up. I've got to go ahead and get my exhaust setup, wheel the car in here. We can do that now. I'm gonna give it one final wipe down, mix our primer up, and shoot. So let me go ahead and get all that prep work done, and we'll come back when we're ready to paint. Now, I'm not bringing the camera in there. Probably hang you outside a window so you can kind of see what I'm doing. I do need to get better lighting in here for final paint, but for right now, primer, it's gonna be just fine. I've got a couple ideas what I want to do, but if anybody's got good ideas of lighting in the booth, that would be awesome. I'm thinking just some more of these Amazon 4-foot LED bars on some posts, or there's a couple of hooks I can hang from in there. I don't know how much they'll support. Let's see. Yeah, they actually might support. It's pretty beefy, so maybe that's my thing to do. Get more of these Amazon light bars like I've got around the perimeter of the shop here, and mount those on some like 1x2s like I've got up in the garage. Yeah, that's a good idea because I don't really need those up anymore. Need those up there anymore. Anyways, I'm gonna quit rambling, get back to work. All right, well, floor dollies and zippers, I gotta figure out a solution for this. Hold on. Well, we're all set up. I'm gonna go ahead and mask up. We are outside the booth because, well, I'm not bringing you in there, but hopefully you'll be able to see. I'm gonna get 2 coats of the 2K high build primer down, probably only show you one, but that's the plan, is to get 2 coats down. Hopefully I don't pop any breakers because bad things will happen. I've still gotta figure out, drop some lines for my ceiling to hold up the 4 corners of this in the event a breaker trips. But mainly I just got to figure out which circuits to put everything on. I've got 3 total fans, and just figuring out which ones to place where, make sure I turn off, you know, the pop cooler, just because things might happen, or may have happened before I started. So anyways, mask up, spray on, let's go. Well, if you couldn't tell, I was having some pretty big problems with my first primer gun. Granted, it's the Harbor Freight Special, but it's been working great for me until, well, now. So I checked that one, I grabbed a different one. Things went much better. So I got that first coat on there. Where I first started noticing the problem, it's gonna be a little speckly and like kind of pitted, but most of that was on the roof. I can sand that down, no problem. Again, high build primer. So now that I've got a good working gun, I'm gonna mix up a second batch, go over the car again, and then be done. So I'm gonna spare you that drawn out enjoyment. But I'll come back once it is all primed up and we're pulling it out of the booth. Alrighty, well, it should be dry. Said it's Sunday night, I'm hungry, nobody wants to cook, so we went out for tacos and maybe a margarita. Anyways, let's go ahead and drag this thing out of the booth and see what it looks like. Now, okay, neat. Anyways, we're gonna pull this thing out and see how it looks. Well, I can reposition this thing later. Let's take a quick walk around and take a look at it. Alrighty, overall so far it looks pretty good. Got a couple coats, like I said, of the high build on there. This is where the gun was kind of shooting, kind of spittle. That'll take a little bit of sanding, but that's not a big deal. The engine bay looks pretty good. Again, a light sanding in here before we paint. That's the next thing we're going to do is paint the engine bay. And the roof looks good again. That's getting covered by the vinyl top. Our new quarter panel looks excellent. Throw our guide coat on here, block that out, and I think we're going to be looking really good. Rear end here at the trunk, the valance panel we put in a couple of years ago. And yeah, everything looks pretty good. So I think for now that's going to put a wrap. Hold on. So, as I was saying, that's going to put a wrap on this for right now. I've got to get this giant bouncy house put away so I can get everything back in here that belongs in here, because now it is later on a Sunday evening and tomorrow is another day at the office. So, my plans for this next, like I say, is going to be getting the engine bay for sure blocked out so we can get that sealed and get our sublime green paint laid down in there. I don't know that I'm ready to do the rest of the vehicle yet, but that is coming. So better or worse, if I'm doing that section right now, that's what I'm doing. But anyways, until the next video on this, thanks for watching this one. It's been a number of weeks to get this far, and I guess the last couple of years working to get to this point where we start reassembling everything. As far as the body is done, body work is done, all the new metal is on. I've still got a few little tweaks to do on the front fenders, like I've mentioned. The hood is good to go. The trunk is good to go. I guess I do have the driver's side door yet to just strip down and respray, because that did not have any damage on it. Passenger door, that's ready to get final paint on it as well. And then start reassembly. And Darren, if you're watching this, it's time to get those parts coming in, because we've got vintage air going in. He's got a new set of wheels and tires at home. He's got exhaust for this thing. The new whole interior. We've got new seats. Not sure if we're doing foams and seats and everything, or just new cushions and foams. We'll see. We've got new dash stuff to put in. We've got to figure out gauges, if we're going to do updated dash gauge cluster or just use what's here. I don't know what works. I don't think much works. New dash pad, we've got that to go in. A whole bunch of new parts floating around here, and a whole bunch of old parts sitting up there on the shelving to get cleaned up and back on the vehicle. But we are making progress, and excited to see this thing in its final coat of primer before we start getting the paint down. So until the next video for here, thanks for watching, and we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.